Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Welcome to my room, guys. I hope you're having a good Sunday. Today we're going to be talking about the INFJ's behavior. And this is a broad topic and it could be discussed at length, and you'll understand why I feel confident, a bit more confident maybe than I was before to approach this specific topic. Now, before I move on, very briefly, because I've heard some of you mentioning that when I'm talking about my books at the start of each video, it's taken too long these days. So very briefly, Ecstatic Soul, book on the INFJ, and the Infinite Castle, my new novel. You can check the links just so that you can have another look. You can see the links down below in the description box if you're interested. But let's move on. Let's keep this short, and from now on, it will always be brief, okay? So, the INFJ's behavior is a topic that, first of all, when I say behavior, I mean behavior in the real world, okay? I don't mean behavior online, because the online behavior of INFJs, well, first of all, it presupposes that we are quite certain that the other person's INFJ, and if we don't know them well, we can't be sure. If we do know them well, then we can look at the way that they utilize language, utilize investigative questions, they empathize. A lot of my analyses over the years have had to do with the way they use language. And I've made quite a few videos about this before, so I won't necessarily want to touch on this right now. But the reason why I feel more confident to talk about the INFJ's IRL behavior is that not long ago, last month in fact, I was lucky to meet with one of my viewers. That person shall remain anonymous, but I will just say that it was very clear straight away that that person was an INFJ. I had no doubt about it. I had no doubt about it in my initial exchanges with them by email in the lead up to meeting in Dublin. And when we met in person and we spent a good bit of a Saturday afternoon together, I had even less. What little doubts I had, which was nil in essence, evaporated. But it really got me to think that provided me with rather fresh insight into how an INFJ behaves, how they come across in person. Of course, I can do that to an extent by observing myself, and I can do that to an extent also by observing people in my circle of friends, that IRL friends that I think are INFJs. One of the issues is that I don't have a lot of such friends, if any, at the moment. At least in my in my circle of friends IRL. There's someone else who is who is extremely dear to me, that is INFJ, but that person I would rather keep close to my heart. So the meeting with that INFJ made me confirm some of my intuitions about how an INFJ comes across. So this is what I would like to share with you now, and I would be very curious to hear if you guys have had similar experiences, similar intuitions, whether you observe that about yourself. So first of all, what I would say is that the demeanor, behavior, disposition, whatever you want to call it, of an INFJ in person is, first of all, you always get the impression that they are looking straight into your soul. And when I say this, I don't mean that they're being intense in the sense that they make you feel naked or unmasked, but more that when you are discussing with them, when you're having a conversation, they look at you and they're very interested in what you have to say, but it's almost as if they understand implicitly that all the external superficial behaviors, the gestures you make, the particular words that you use to communicate, there are things that they understand to be, in some sense, placeholders to get into the substance of what's behind it, both in terms of what's in you, what is your soul, and what you have to share with them in terms of a universal set of principles that they can access through you. So the interaction with an INFJ is always a juxtaposition of the interpersonal. You're with that person, you walk around the city, you have good chats, but there's also something slightly above the personal, something transpersonal, something above the interpersonal, transpersonal, reaching to the universal in some sense. And it's quite a unique, pleasurable, and valuable experience, because it gives you the sense that everything is absolutely filled with meaning. And I say this because a lot of the time when you interact with people in your everyday life, and I don't want to refer to any specific types here, let's just say, people in your everyday life, people you may like, people you may dislike, people you may be indifferent towards, people that you may find entertaining, people that you may find funny. Sometimes you spend a really good time and you go home and you ask yourself, at least I ask myself, what was the point really of all this? Was it just filling up space? Was it just populating a room with music, with noise, so that we'd have a good time? And I don't mean this in a disparaging sense, because I would be fully engaging in that myself. It'd be a collaborative enterprise in some sense. But it would not be an experience that would strike you as making a difference above the individual experience itself. It would be a nominalistically significant experience, to use a philosophical term, but not a universalistically significant experience. And spending time with an INFJ, I really just had this impression that everything was filled with meaning that went beyond the particular interaction. And I strongly suspect that this has to do primarily with this conjunction of the NI tendency to pierce through the layers of everyday experience, to go straight for the core, and the FE around it that tends to universalize whatever is arrived at. Notice it would be different if you were to spend time with an INTJ, I suspect, because the FE is not really there. So going straight to the core, yes. But I think that at some strong level, there would still be the sense in which there are two subjects intensifying each other's experiences, but not necessarily reaching to that letting go of subjectivity into this universal union. And that was a very, very strong impression and experience I had, and I really wanted to share that with you. Another sense, and something that might seem a little bit more pedestrian, but I don't think is, and again, it's one of the giveaways that I think from now on I'm always going to have in mind, that an INFJ does come across, and this is something that's always new, but we do go on about the INFJ humor and how the INFJ humor is a lot more risque, a lot less appropriate than a lot of people think when INFJs let themselves go when they feel comfortable. Now that's true, but nevertheless, the circumstances in which that humor is delivered, the circumstances in which that's everything that is playful is conveyed, and here I am again, often guilty of that these days, boring, a very useful dyad of concepts from cognitive typology. There's a measuredness to INFJs, as opposed to what you could call the candor of P types, especially. I mean, P types can also exhibit some measuredness, but everything in the INFJ's approach, it's not that they're manipulative or that they're controlling everything in the environment, because they're not, and in fact, they're dominant intuitives. So there is a strong sense in which they're directly interacting with the environment without a primary prism of judgment, of control judgment. But there is a certain sense in which, because for an INFJ, everything that surrounds them makes sense as part of a broader pattern, a pattern that is given and can be explored in various ways. They're at home in that pattern, and they navigate that pattern in a way that almost suggests that it's not like they're completely in an exploratory mode. They're also familiar with that home. And the measuredness, I think, is connected with that. It's the fact that there's a sense in which they are in control. It's not a strong sense of control. It's not like you're in general in the army, but you know where you're going, or you have an idea of the boundaries of where you don't want to go because you don't think that that would be meaningful. And that's what I call the measuredness. So often comes across as a certain kind of formality in interpersonal interaction that does not preclude the possibility of humor, of having a good laugh, but it comes from a place of knowing where you are and being in control in some sense. And I don't know whether I could explain that better. Now, I don't want this video to be too long, so if this has proven to be of interest to you, I could make further investigations, descriptions, analyses, whatever you want to call it, of how an INFJ comes across in person, in their behavior. But for now, just to recapitulate my points, a certain formality, depth, wanting to go straight to the core, a sense that everything is deeply meaningful and transcends subjectivity, and a measuredness, a measured approach to the environment and to where you are going. And this could be specific to INFJ interactions. It might not be the case that an INFP interacting with an INFJ experiences all of that. For example, the transsubjective experience might be a little bit differently experienced by an INFP because being a FI dominant, they do not easily accede to that because it's not the natural go-to. But nevertheless, I think that these elements of descriptive experience will be useful. But let me know in the comments if you relate to any of this, and if you would like to have more discussion, coming up of these topics. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, guys. Ciao.